Hey everybody, welcome to Country Girl with Kathy Jarvis. And a couple weeks ago, my middle son gave me this idea for this video. And we were actually in the office, our home office here. And if you don't know, I have had, for the last 17 years, I have had a pet snake called Artemis. It's a little ball python. And we were looking at it, and he says, you should do a video on whether snakes are good for the garden. So I thought about it, and I thought, not a bad idea. So I started doing research, and that research took me into a fantastic rabbit hole. I quickly learned that I needed to narrow down my scope of things. Because venomous snakes in the United States and North America are a lot different than the ones in other parts of the world. And they're easier to tell apart. So I decided to just work on the snakes in the garden of North America. So we're going to basically look at some of these snakes that we might encounter. Now, in the North America, we have over hundreds of snakes. It's different species of snakes. And many of them will end up in the garden. And with few exceptions that I can think of, a snake in the garden is a very good thing. Of course, you don't want the poisonous, venomous ones out there. But the good news is there's only 4 venomous snakes in the United States. So if you learn those, all the other snakes are fine. And there's about 90% of the snakes in the United States or in North America are non-venomous, harmless snakes. So there's no real need to kill every snake that you see. Sure, they might scare you a little when you first see them. But once you know they're there, you kind of expect to see them. Now, most of the snakes, the non-venomous snakes, belong to the same family as snakes. And these are the garter snakes, the ribbon snakes, little snakes like that. The garter snake is a small, thin little snake. It tends to move fairly quickly and can give you quite a little start when you first see it. They're one of the best snakes to have in the garden, as they love to eat insects. My problem is you probably don't have enough garter snakes in your garden to be a primary biological control of insects. But they are good to have around. They are one of the most colorful of the snakes, either having stripes or checkered patterns. They can be in different colors. They can be red, orange, green, blue, brown, black, all different colors, and yellow. And they are really one of the most essential non-venomous snakes that you can have in the garden. Close relative to the garter snake is the ribbon snake. Another closely related snake to the garter snakes are water snakes. These are usually found in the gardens, particularly in the northeast United States. And they are usually rather boring in coloring and appearance. Usually they're brown with some darker colors. And they like to live near the water. Now, another snake that you might find in your garden are constrictors. Now, these would include your gopher snakes, your king snakes, and your pine snakes. The gopher snakes are relatively large and a big snake. They grow up to 7 feet long. And that can give you a pretty good scare if you happen to see one in your garden. And they mainly eat the rats and mice that are in the garden, but they're a shy species, and if you're an active gardener, you might scare them away. And one thing about them is that they get scared, or they may beat their tail against the dry grass, and it makes it sound like a rattle. And this is mainly just to make somebody stop and think, wow, that little snake's trying to get away. Now, the king snakes are smaller than the gopher snakes, and they're relatively large for a snake yet, and also one of the most colorful snakes. They have a broad appetite, includes lizards and toads and things like that, and they're known to be able to take a rattlesnake bite and actually eat the rattlesnakes. So they are definitely a good snake to have around. They can either be black and white in striking patterns, or brightly colored with red, black, and yellows. Another snake that's very common are the rat snakes. They're usually found on farms and out in the countries and stuff, and they're also constrictor snakes. And they tend to be faster moving, and they're more grumpy, so you kind of want to leave them alone. They will not attack you, nor will they attack your pets, as long as you don't bother them. Now, related to them are the milk and the corn snakes. And these are the friendly, slower ones, among the nicest, peaceful snakes, garden snakes that you're going to find. They are quite colorful. Some of them do have markings that resemble a coil snake, so you kind of have to watch that very carefully. But we'll get to where the coil snakes are very rare, and they live only in a certain part of North America. They are not quite as shy as the rat snake or as a gopher or the king snake, so they might actually hang around the garden even if you're out there working. Now, one of my favorite snakes, as far as how it reacts, is the hognose snake. These are famous for their ability to play dead. If they get startled, they'll either hiss at you and flatten out their little head, and if that doesn't scare you away, they're going to roll over, stick out their tongue, show their belly, and act like they're dead. I had one that Shoes was fighting a couple of years ago. She just was barking at. It was a little teeny thing, about maybe 10 inches long. And that thing was hissing and putting its head down and everything. So I got her inside, and I went back out with the shovel, and I picked it up with the shovel because I wasn't for sure what it was at the time. And the minute I got it on that shovel, it turned over, put his little stomach up, stuck out his tongue, and that's the way it was the whole time. I carried it away from the house because it was on the porch. I carried it off the porch and carried it into the field across the way, and dropped it off there. And I waited for a while, and it took it quite a while before it decided to quit playing possum, and that it was safe and took off. So these are cute little snakes, very, very peaceful, but I love their little upturned noses. The only problem is they do eat a lot of frogs and toads, so they're not really the best snake to have in the garden. because your frogs and your toads will eat your insects. And I have, if you know me, I love frogs. I have a frog in every room of the house, statue of course. I have frogs in my gardens out here, and I actually have live frogs in the pond behind me, which is Jeremiah. I have him named. And he will let me pick him up. So yeah, he's been around for a while. So that's the only reason I don't like the hognose snakes. There is a little bit of controversy. I guess there's a debate about whether they are venomous or non-venomous. They do have a slight degree of venom, but it's mild and not really enough to actually hurt a human. So they're not the best garden snake to have. Now, next type of snakes that you can run into are what I consider the super fast little snakes. And this would include the racers and the coach whips. And these are best left alone. They're generally very lone and skinny snakes. They like to live on rodents and reptiles, which they chase down and squeeze. The racers can be a little bit aggressive. They also rattle their tail if you get too close to them. And then there's the indigo snake. This is a snake found in the East Coast and around Texas. And it's one of the largest American snakes there is. They're very docile, very slow moving, beautiful shiny black color. And just about anything that they can eat, they will, including rattlesnakes. Be an excellent garden snake. The only problem is that they're getting very, very rare and decreasing in number. So there's other non-venomous snakes in the United States. They're just not as common as the ones we just mentioned. You have the rosy bolas, the rubber bolas, the worm snakes, green snakes, the ring-necked snakes, the night snakes. They're around, but they're just very, very rare. So they're not going to be found in your garden very likely. All of them are safe. All of them are relatively small. And they would make great garden snakes. Well, that is all of the non-venomous snakes that we're going to look at this week. Next week, we'll look at the venomous ones that are in the United States. And in the meantime, remember, learn your snakes and dream big. Follow that dream. Like, share, subscribe. And I guess we will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.